Hello folks. So I hope you enjoyed the first mini lecture. This is the second mini lecture of chapter 1 and your second mini lecture ever unless you took hybrid AandP2 first from me. So this is 1-4. And the reason why it's only 1-4 is because I find this very important, this material, for organizing your thought processes and organizing how you visualize the human body and the hierarchy of life. Now, you're going to find this funny, but the text only gives maybe a page of this. But I do find this extremely important. So let's just do this once. This is a concept map, if you will. And this is called the hierarchy of life. So I can either start big and go small, or I can start small and go big. It all depends on how you think. I happen to be a molecular biologist or a biochemist, which means I'm a reductionist. That means I like things to be explained at the molecular level, at very tiny levels. So I'm a reductionist. So I'm going to start small and go big. You guys can definitely redo this concept map and start big and go small if you want. So, an atom. An atom is the basic unit of matter. All matter is composed of atoms. And if you want to know how many different kinds of atoms there are, you just look at a periodic table of the elements. An element is a particular type of atom. And in chapter 2, we will talk a lot about the atoms. It's the chemistry chapter of biology. If you take two or more atoms and combine them, and we're going to talk about how two or more atoms have molecular bonds because they're molecules now, but two or more atoms combined are called molecules. And we'll talk about the covalent bonds, ionic bonds, etc. So we'll talk about molecules. And then in biology, we have these macromolecules. And here's how easy biology is. There's only 4 types of macromolecules. No particular order. There's carbohydrates. There's lipids. There's nucleic acids. And which one? Proteins. So there's only 4 biological macromolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. And these will be covered in chapter 2 as well. All right, so atom, the basic unit of matter. 2 or more atoms combined give you these molecules. And they're relatively simple molecules. How do we know? Because we have more complex molecules and larger molecules, which we call macromolecules. And there's 4 biological macromolecules: carbs, lipids, nucleic acids, and proteins. Now you take these macromolecules and you put them together in different ways, and you get these subcellular structures that we call organelles. Now we'll study this in the cell chapter, which I believe is chapter 3. So we'll study all the organelles, and you will memorize all the organelles in chapter 3. Take the organelles, all of the organelles together, and keep them in one spot, so they're encased by a membrane, a plasma membrane, and you have a cell. The cell is extremely important in biology because it's the basic unit of life. Now what that means is we've never found a living thing on this planet that wasn't composed of cells. I mean, could there be? I don't know. We've never found one. We've never found a living thing not composed of cells. So we call the cell the basic unit of life. Now, I want you to realize that sometimes you stop right there, especially in a discipline like microbiology. In microbiology, when you're studying prokaryotes, they only get as big as a cell. They are one-celled organisms. So this is where you would stop. That's the end. But in human anatomy and physiology, of course, that's just the basic unit of life, and we have trillions of these in our body. So you take 2 or more cells and put them together with a common function, and you get a tissue. And there's only 4 primary tissue types. Forgive my poor spelling. There's only 4 primary tissue types. And those 4 primary tissue types are as follows. There's epithelial tissue. There is connective tissue. There is muscular tissue, and there's nervous tissue. All right, those are the 4 primary tissue types. Now you take 2 or more of these tissue types, like you could take connective and epithelial together, or muscular and connective together. You take 2 or more. It could be all 4 of them, by the way. Take 2 or more of these tissue types and put them together, and you get organs. All right? And you know what an organ is, like the heart's an organ. Every named muscle is an organ. Actually, you probably don't know that. Every named muscle in your body is an organ. Every named nerve in your body is an organ. Every named bone in your body is an organ. So the humerus is an organ. The femur is an organ. The biceps brachii is an organ. All right, now you take 2 or more organs and put them together, and they all have a common function, and you get an organ system. And this is how our book is broken down into organ systems. And the organ systems are, there's 11, or it actually depends on who you're talking to and what you're doing. But I think your book has 11 or 12. And why do I say 11 or 12? Because some people put the male reproductive system separate from the female reproductive system, and some people put the reproductive systems together. It doesn't matter which gender you're talking about. So that's why I can't give you an exact number of organ systems. By the way, I'll take a shot at it. See if I can get all 11 of these. And this is no particular order, but we'll do the integumentary system. That's your skin. You have your muscular system. You have your skeletal system. That's the bone, the muscles and the bones. You have your nervous system. My favorite system. That's my favorite system. You have your endocrine system. You have your lymphatic immune system. Now that's interesting. Well, which one is it? Lymphatic or immune? Well, I'll tell you when we get there. You have your cardiovascular system, heart and blood vessels. You have your urinary system. Now, let me talk about something. When you watched that video in the last mini lecture, the narrator, she said excretory system. And I don't have a problem with that. I actually, when I was an undergraduate, we studied and we called a system an excretory system. But I would tell you that the way your book breaks out the systems, that the excretory system is more than one of these. For example, your skin sweats out waste. That's part of your excretory system. Your urinary system urinates out waste. That's part of your excretory system. Your digestive system excretes waste. That's part of your excretory system. So when you use the word like excretory system, the way your book is designed, it's going to be more than one of these. Now, where am I at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have the reproductive system. Reproductive, 10, and if you say male and female separately, that's 11, although I think I'm missing something here. I'm just thinking of parts of my body. Blood, endocrine, that might be it right there. That certainly could be it right there. So some people would break out the reproductive system into male and female reproductive system, and that you would have 11 of these. And I could be missing one. We'll see in a second. We're going to go through them. Let me tell you that when you get to graduate school, some of these systems will be combined. For example, you could have a neuroendocrine system. Why would I ever combine this nervous system and this endocrine system? Because chemically, the signal molecules are the same. For example, epinephrine can be a hormone, and epinephrine can be a neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine can be a hormone, and norepinephrine can be a neurotransmitter. Dopamine can be a hormone, and dopamine can be a neurotransmitter. So you see where I'm going with this. And where I'm going with this is, this is not written in stone how we divvy up these systems. But you certainly have to know how your book does it. Take all the organ systems together, and what we have is an organism. And that's us. Now in biology, we study many different organisms. But in human anatomy and physiology, we study the human. So that's where we stop right there, the organism. All right, that's the hierarchy of life. If I were you, I would be able to do that bottom to top, top to bottom. I would know this cold, in other words. I would know what we just did very well, and it will serve you well. This is from your book, and this is an example. Notice that they don't do it with every single detail that I put in there. For example, they go from atoms to macromolecules. Well, where's the molecule? Well, we have simple molecules in here that I talked to you about, what we'll later on call monomers of macromolecules. So I've added some levels that you're not seeing here. And they're skipping the organelles. Where are the organelles? Well, you'll study the organelles. Don't worry. You'll study them. But the organelles are smaller than cells. And then we have the cell. It's the basic unit of life. A cell is alive. Then we have tissues and organ systems and organisms. So this is the hierarchy of life that you must memorize. Here's another picture from another text. I like it because it does the molecule macromolecule thing for me. Does it do the organelles? Yes, it does the organelles, cells, tissues, organs. Yeah, this is perfect. This is what we talked about right here. So this is a more detailed look at the hierarchy of life. All right, pretty cool. Now this is from a biochemistry book, and please don't memorize this picture right here. But what I want to tell you is it really does depend on the author of the text, of the literature you're reading or the text you're reading. Because look at this, supramolecular complexes. Come on. I mean, I thought I went from molecules to macromolecules to organelles. Well, you do. Here you have molecules. Here you have macromolecules. Here you have organelles. Well, in biochemistry texts, we add this level in between called supramolecular complexes. And the reason why biochemistry texts do that is because you don't need to just have carbohydrates like cellulose and just have proteins or just have nucleic acids. You could have glycoproteins, carbs mixed with proteins. You could have lipoproteins, lipids mixed with proteins. You could have glycolipids, carbs mixed with lipids. So in biochemistry texts, we have this level that, again, I wouldn't spend a lot of time on. I'm just showing you that there's different ways to look at it. All right. Did I miss any of the systems? I definitely got all of these. Oh, I missed the respiratory system, did I not? So there should be 12 here. Let's look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 in your book. And when I did this on that white sheet, I missed the respiratory system. That's not good, right? If you can't breathe and you can't deliver oxygen to your blood, that's not good. But I did miss it. So what you need to do for Chapter 1 is you need to know all 12 of these systems and the general functions of these systems. That means these general functions down here. Nothing specific yet, because you're going to cover every single one of these systems if you take both Anatomy and Physiology 1 and 2 here at JCC. In Anatomy and Physiology 1, we do the skin, we do the skeletal, we do the muscular, we skip the nervous and skip the endocrine. We then do cardiovascular. We do 3 chapters on cardiovascular. Chapter 19, 20, and 21 is blood, heart, and blood vessels. So there's 3 chapters on the cardiovascular system. We do the lymphatic immune system, and we do the respiratory system, and we stop. Okay, why do we stop? Because in Bio 252, Anatomy and Physiology 2, we pick it up with a nervous system, then we cover the endocrine system. By the way, there's lots of nervous system chapters. It's chapter, I do believe, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 12 through 17. The nervous system is complex, and there's all those chapters. So we, in AandP 2, we do the nervous system, the endocrine system. Then we do the digestive system and the urinary system. And then lastly, we do the reproductive system and development. Chapter 29 is the development aspect. Because chapter 28 just says this is how you deliver semen and this is how you get pregnant. And then chapter 29 says, well, this is what happens to the zygote after the sperm meets the egg. So there is a chapter 29 that we'll get to in Bio 252. So please look at these and please be familiar with the overall function of these systems, the general function. And it's probably, it is intuitive anyway. So if I just said, what's the function of the respiratory system? You'd say, get oxygen into the body. And I would say, you are correct. Now, it also gets CO2 out of your body. But I would say you're correct when you say the respiratory system gets oxygen into your body. So you can see that these are probably very intuitive for you. Let's talk about something else before I go on. Some people call the lymphatic system the immune system. Some people call it the lymphatic immune system. So what's going on there? Well, my contention would be this. It's the lymphatic system anatomically, and it's the immune system physiologically. Now, there's probably some argument and some problems with that statement, but all in all, you could look at the lymphatic system anatomically and look at the lymph vessels and the lymph nodes, and then physiologically you can talk about what the cells found inside the lymph system do. You know, your lymphocytes and some of your other macrophages and your immune cells. So they're put together, lymphatic and immune system. All right, so you got some memorization to do already, so you guys have got to get on that. And there's some pictures here that take these systems one by one, and they tell you the major organs of the systems. That should make sense, because a system is two or more organs acting together. So there better be two or more organs here, and you can see the major organs of the skin. We'll cover the skin in great detail. Chapter 5, I believe. So when we get to chapter 5, we'll be doing skin. The integumentary system, by the way. I keep saying skin, and I shouldn't. I should say integumentary system. The skeletal system is your bones and joints. So that's bones and joints. All right. Your muscular system is your muscles. There's 3 major kinds of muscles, so you'll learn all 3 of them. You'll learn the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle, the skeletal muscle. We spend most of our time on the skeletal muscle, because then in chapter 20 we do the heart. So I don't spend a ton of time in the cardiac muscle because we do it again. The cardiovascular system, it delivers oxygenated blood to all cells in the body. Every cell in your body is no further than 0.15 millimeters from a blood vessel. I mean, they get closer. There's cells that are a lot closer than 0.15 millimeters. That's 150 micrometers, by the way. Now, when I put it in micrometers and I say that's 150, that's actually quite a distance. I want you to realize that eukaryotic cells, like our cells, most of them are around 10 to maybe 50 micrometers big. So I'm telling you that some cells are from 3 to 15 times their diameter away from blood vessel, away from their source of oxygen and nutrients. So when you're the cell, that's a long ways. But of course, when you're a big human looking at 0.15 millimeters, you're saying, wow, they're all real close. Well, it depends what you are. Anyway, your cardiovascular system delivers oxygen and nutrients to all cells in the body. Lymphatic system is involved in cleaning the liquid. Well, let me just tell you this. It returns water to your bloodstream. You're going to say, what do I mean returns water to my bloodstream? Well, your bloodstream loses water. You're going to have to wait until I explain that to you. But your lymphatic system returns it to your bloodstream, and in so doing, it cleans it. It cleans that fluid, and it has immune cells that fight off infection. Respiratory system, it's how you get the oxygen into the blood, and you get rid of CO2 waste at the same time. Nervous system, communication. Now it's communication. Endocrine system is communication. So what the heck's the difference between nervous and endocrine? Nervous is very fast and short-lived communication, And endocrine is slow and long-lived communication. So you can see back here it says immediate responses, fast. And here you can say long-term changes, slow. All right, so they're both major communication systems, but the nervous system is fast and short-lived, and the endocrine system is slow and long-lived. The digestive system, this is your breaking down your food products into absorbable nutrients, so you can absorb these nutrients. Urinary system gets rid of waste. That's the biggest thing that does is get rid of waste. Filters your blood and gets rid of waste. In the reproductive systems, a biologist would say you're only alive for one reason. The only reason you're alive is to have a baby, to pass on your DNA to your offspring. That's what a biologist would say. I'm not talking socially. Don't report me to the president. I'm not making a social statement here. But you're really probably one of the greatest drives you have is to pass on your DNA to offspring. That's the reproductive system. And that's it, folks. Next mini lecture coming up.